Tonight on KGW News, breaking down the heat.
It was an unprecedented event, how warm it got.
A look back at the record-breaking temperatures.
This high pressure was just super large.
And what scientists have learned in the year since last summer's deadly heat wave. Plus, we're tracking COVID case numbers in Oregon on the rise, where they stand compared to just days ago. But first,
any move that we can make as a team to stifle gun violence, then I'm all for it.
Portland's mayor makes a plan to curb the gun violence. Your news starts now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Tonight, Portland's mayor announced a new effort to curb gun violence during the summer, a time of year historically with a tragic rise in crime. Let's get straight to Alma McCarty, who's digging into what this plan means and how community advocates hope it will save lives. Alma?
Laurel, many of those details are yet to be revealed, but we are seeing the first parts of the plan take shape. Mayor Ted Wheeler appointed 3 people to lead Safer Summer PDX, the upcoming action plan to prevent and address gun violence over the summer months.
So far, 2022 has proven to be another violent year for the city of Portland. With more than 645 shootings and 42 homicides, a majority of which were gun-related, this year's statistics are on pace with last year's numbers, despite the local efforts to put a stop to the violence.
Everybody that's from Portland should be sad because we lost a lot of people. We got a cloud over us, and we need to be all in it together, focus on gun violence intervention on every level.
As the weather heats up, there's often a surge in gun violence in cities nationwide.
We don't want to be caught off guard here in the city of Portland, so we've already put a lot of planning and investments into the field to reduce gun violence this summer.
Tuesday, Mayor Ted Wheeler announced a team of violence prevention experts to lead a coordinated effort called Safer Summer PDX.
And their goal is to work as our ceasefire team to help develop concrete, immediate strategies here in the city of Portland to start reducing the gun violence that we're seeing on our street.
Community activists already involved in gun violence prevention say they're hopeful this plan will make a difference.
We are dealing with something that is very difficult.
Like Dr. KGW Matt Hennessy, pastor of Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church.
I am one who believes that this issue is not resolved by any one thing. I think it's resolved by a number of things coming together.
Lionel Irving, gang veteran and CEO of Love is Stronger, tells me he fully supports the mayor's plan.
Anything that we can do, any move that we can make as a team to stifle gun violence, then I'm all for it.
And hopes this new team will work with community organizations like his to curb gun violence.
We're trying to save these guys. We don't want nobody to go to prison. We don't want nobody, we don't have no more funerals. We want to celebrate wins. We want to celebrate graduations, childbirths, and those type of things. And so that's what we're fighting for, is to save these young men and to make them aware of the trauma and the effects of their actions that have on our whole community.
And you can learn more about those experts the mayor appointed. We'll have that information in a web story up on KGW.com. As for the plan itself, city officials tell me the full announcement should be coming within the next 2 weeks. Laurel?
And we look forward to hearing all about it. Thank you, Alma. It has been 10 months since a 26-year-old Marion County man was stabbed to death inside his home. Now his family is offering a reward in hopes of finding whoever is responsible. The Jutton family raised $50,000 for a reward for anyone with information on the death of Travis Jutton. Last August, Travis and his wife were found stabbed in their rural Marion County home on Northeast Hazel Green Road and Howell Prairie Road. Travis's wife lived, but Travis was pronounced dead at the scene.
By offering this reward, we are begging someone to come forward with anything you may have heard of or saw, even if you think it's insignificant. It might be the last piece of the puzzle that law enforcement is looking for.
Since the investigation is ongoing, there are no additional details being released about Travis's murder. Anyone with any information on the murder should contact the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Now let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines. A pregnancy resource center in Portland was vandalized last night. Some, in a protest, broke windows and spray painted the First Image office at Southeast 20th and Main. First Image is a religious organization that works to support pregnant women and discourages abortions. First Image has been targeted several times recently. There was an arson attack at their pregnancy resource center in Gresham earlier this month, and a different First Image center in Southeast Portland was also vandalized. One person is dead after a small plane crashed in Vancouver this morning. Police and fire officials found the plane on fire on the runway at Pearson Airfield. We don't know yet if the plane was taking off or landing. The FAA and NTSB will work to figure out what went wrong. So far, police are not releasing the name of the person who died. And tonight, Clackamas Fire is working to fight a brush fire. It's burned at least 15 to 20 acres so far off Marmot Road. It's not near any structures, but the road around it is closed as crews try to put out the flames. They're asking people to avoid the area as they continue to stop the fire from spreading. Do you remember what the weather was like 1 year ago today? That is the day we were in the middle of an extreme heat wave, and temperatures reached 116 degrees in Portland, the highest ever. We later learned more than 100 people died across Oregon from that heat. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri spoke with some climate scientists to find out if those extreme temperatures could happen again.
Last summer's deadly heat wave was unlike anything we've experienced in our lifetimes here in the Pacific Northwest. 3 days of record-breaking heat, one right after another. June 26th, 108 degrees. June 27th, 112. And the hottest day ever recorded at the Portland International Airport, 116 degrees on June 28th.
The heat dome actually formed in conditions similar to previous heat waves that have hit the Pacific Northwest. So what that means is that we get this ridge of high pressure that kind of centered itself over kind of off of the west coast of Washington and Vancouver Islands.
Larry O'Neill is the state climatologist and associate professor at Oregon State University.
Mostly on the
He said there were three things that made the heat dome so extraordinary.
This high pressure was just super large. It was very high intensity. It set records for basically how high the freezing level was.
During the summer, it's pretty common to see freezing levels jump up to over 10,000 feet.
And it was just the fact that the atmosphere below it was as warm as we've ever seen it.
Mount Hood stands at over 11,000 feet. Mount Rainier, the tallest peak in the Cascades, is at more than 14,000 feet in elevation. Over that 3-day stretch in June, records were shattered, including a freezing level at nearly 20,000 feet.
So if you were to take a flight from Eugene to Seattle, the plane will kind of level off at about 20,000 feet. And typically temperatures there are, minus 20 degrees Celsius or something like that.
The record-breaking temperatures also came during a time when the entire state of Oregon was under some kind of drought.
So spring last year, Oregon experienced its driest spring on record, March, April, May. And what that meant was that there was no water on the landscape basically to evaporate.
When water evaporates, it cools down the atmosphere, but there was nothing to cool us off with. Combine the heat we had with the parched landscape of the Northwest, there was only one way for our temperatures to go.
It was an unprecedented event, how warm it got. So 116 in Portland, 112 in Eugene, I think it was about 115 or so in Salem. And, people move to the Pacific Northwest because to escape that heat. They come from California or, places in the desert Southwest or from the South. They kind of come up here because it is so nice and calm.
O'Neill also contributes the heat dome to what else?
The third factor, of course, is climate change. The Earth is just steadily warming, and so we have this baseline that just keeps going up, and so that added a few degrees as well.
So could these heat waves be something we start seeing every summer?
Heat at that extreme level is unlikely, at least in the next couple of decades. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Statistically, temperatures that high are unlikely.
Erica Fleshman is the director of the Oregon Climate Change Research Institute. She doesn't believe we are going to see a heat wave like we saw in June of last year become the norm.
So there are likely to be more heat waves and of longer duration and of greater intensity.
Both O'Neill and Fleshman agree. While we are seeing temperatures warm on a global scale, that doesn't mean we're going to be seeing these extremes year after year just yet.
By the middle of the century, so by about 2050 or 2100 towards the end of the century. This event that we had might be something more like a 1 in 10 year event or a 1 in 20 year event. So this is something that we could see multiple times during our lifetimes.
The challenging part, according to O'Neill, is going to be making sure models pick up on our warming climate.
And there have been discussions and maybe some indications from the data that perhaps the climate models are not warming up quick enough.
A challenge they have been noticing over the last several years.
Historical data record is not guiding us, is no longer a reliable guide, if ever it was, to what we can expect in the future.
What we do know for sure.
The important thing I think to keep in mind is not sort of, oh, well, it's unlikely to be 115 this summer or next summer or anything like that, but it is getting hotter steadily.
It's not just our summers here in the Pacific Northwest that are running warmer. It's across the globe where we are seeing temperatures climb year after year.
Wow, anyone here last year will never forget it.
And absolutely not. It was a 3-day event too, of course. June 28th being the hottest, 116 degrees. Now, you heard Erica talking about how we're not expected to see temperatures at 115, 116 summer after summer, but she did mention that our heat waves over the next several years will be longer in duration and more intensity. And I asked her, how intense could these temperatures be? She said that she wouldn't be surprised if we start to see temperatures in heat waves between 105 and maybe 110 degrees.
Okay, that's pretty hot.
That is pretty hot. And long-range models for this summer, Laurel, are suggesting that we're going to be seeing well above normal temperatures. But looking at the first week into July, it looks like it's going to be a little bit cooler. So I'll talk more about that in your
Now we like
forecast.
that shorter heat wave that we
Right,
had
I'm
that was
with
in
you.
the
I like that
90s.
too.
Thank you, Joe.